Okay, ladies and gentlemen, our next panel discussion is about new retail, new rules, new marketing. These are Chief Marketing Officer insights, understanding and shaping new consumer behavior in the next normal. Please welcome our speakers. He is Chief Marketing Officer, Pioneer Property Zone Services, ICS Realty Group. A warm welcome to Prasad Rane. He is co-founder and chief executive officer, Bill Free. Please welcome Rupesh Moore. Let's hear it for the founder and director of GreenHonchos, Naveen Joshua. And moderating the session is Chief Executive Officer, Rexemter Consult LLP. Please welcome Siju Narayan. Over to Mr. Siju Narayan on the panel.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Excellent. Just as I predicted, post-lunch. Good afternoon. Come on. Good afternoon. Can we try this one more time, please, for my sake? Let's awaken the child in us, right? Manu, Sumit, and Steen did a fantastic job of talking about the Hamley store, the Lego stores, and how the kids need to be awakened amongst us. Good afternoon. No free toys from Hamleys and Legos for you guys. Anyways, just joking. So thank you so much for being here. And it's my pleasure to be hosting this particular session on the new rules of marketing. Now, I cringe when I talk about new rules and paradigm shifts and so on and so forth. Because I personally believe that these are philosophies that undergo change in a dynamic world. So let's embrace it the way they are, and to kind of explore as to how marketing as a concept has changed with a specific focus on malls. And the reason why we are talking of malls is because personally I'm very, very excited about malls as properties. Over the last 10 years, 12 years, I've seen the changing perception of malls and how they've undergone a certain change in the very DNA in the way they operate. And to give us some more insights onto that, we've got an esteemed panel out here. I would request them to do the introductions themselves, but just to give you a 30,000 feet introduction, Prasad, the CMO from the ICS Group, Pioneer Property Services. We have from Bill Free. And then we have from GreenHonchos, Anshu as well. So, sorry, Naveen. So, Naveen, would you start your small introduction and please tell us what you do?
Sure. Am I audible?
Yeah.
We'll keep it brief. I'm Naveen Joshua. Glad to have you all here. I'm excited to add some value, hopefully, in the next few minutes here. GreenHonchos is a D2C enabler for the e-commerce businesses. We have a technology product as well called CartMax that enables and powers brands online.
Thanks, Naveen. Rupesh, a small introduction to yourself and to Bill Free.
Thanks, Naveen. Hi, I'm audible now? Yeah. So my name is Rupesh. I'm a CEO of Bill Free. Bill Free is a customer engagement platform, and we are helping brands in running customer-centric engagement campaigns to bring back the customers and new customer acquisition.
That was okay. I'll just make it brief and lucid. I'm Prasad Rane. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for PPZ. We manage approximately 8 to 9 assets which are operational within our portfolio, and we're in the business of people management. So on that note, yeah.
Sure. Thanks so much. Fantastic, Prasad, Rupesh, and Naveen. So what we shall attempt, as I can see in the next 21 minutes, is try to figure out as to what's happening in the world of marketing and how are the folks in technology enabling them. What are the expectations from the marketing folks in terms of managing the challenges of tomorrow? And may I request participation from your side as well. If there's a question that you want to ask, let's not wait till the end of the session. Please put your hands up, and if no one reaches you, I promise you I'll reach you, and we'll ensure that your questions are heard. But to kick it off, Prasad, last 20 months, challenging, obviously. But, okay, so that's
We just
confidential.
started the recording now.
Yeah, absolutely. So how has marketing as a function evolved over the last 20 months for you, from your perspective as well as from the perspective of the entire department?
I think it is, what is sort of really changed is the entire approach and strategy as to how do we approach customers now. A lot of it was knee-jerk reactions in the beginning, and this I'm saying in hindsight because we were trying to reach customers either through social media or through whatever that was. As I was saying, Siju, we were doing RWAs at few societies and all of that in the catchments. But I think post-pandemic, which is both the lockdowns, we've at least understood what we need to do. And it's a long-term thing. It's not a short-term anymore because what we were doing earlier was very short-term, right? We were just sort of trying to see how do we have some bit of consumption happening. We started something called the WhatsApp shopping. We started several things, right? And most of those things are not even operational anymore. So in hindsight, those were knee-jerk tactical way to either reach customers or to ensure that some amount of consumption happening through F&B or the anchor stores. But now we've taken a broad view of how do we need to tackle the customer as a segment and the customer data community. I know this is a very abusive word that everybody's been saying that quite often, but we've been taking it very seriously. Our AMP, which is our annual marketing plan construct that we used to do, was typically driven towards the business objectives, right?
So can I come on to the AMP
Sure.
in detail? Because since you mentioned AMP, I believe that's a strategic pivot for you, and that's undergone a huge change.
Yes.
So probably we'll discuss that in detail without you getting into the specifics of what your
Sure,
AMP looks like.
Sure.
But if you sat through the last session, which we did, it was very, very clear that the underlying concept for shopping today is being experiential. Now, while the focus of Sumit and team in the last session was mostly around kids being the driver of these experiential, shopping experiences, if I might say, but it's true for any shopping, right?
Yeah.
Now, Prasad, they were talking about one store. They were talking about brand, but you're a mall. You're a mix of brands, very diverse, right? They have different customer segments. They have different philosophies in life. How do you approach something as experiential in nature?
So I'll tell you what, Siju, more than the experiential factor, what we kids as a segment, and I was sort of saying this, within the customer community, we've got segments that we've divided now. So no more it is important to know just a customer. Earlier, the golden rule was just know your customer, right? I mean, wherever he is, whatever he is. Today, that's not the golden rule. The change is that the customer now, it's important to know the segment that he's coming in. Based on which you plan, design events, talk to them on social media or whatever platforms are available onto those customers. So the whole approach has changed quite a bit, and it's just not doing experiential events, but it's more to do with targeting the right kind of events for the kids, maybe for the mommies and the moms and so we've clustered a lot of segments in the overall database, and we no more do the overall mass approach. We've been a little more targeted and more segmented towards whatever we're doing now.
So you agree that being experiential is not just the imperative of individual brands, but it's also an imperative for a mall operator like you?
Always been.
Okay.
Always been.
So Naveen, what have you seen over the past 20 months? You've worked with a cross-section of brands. You worked with a cross-section of categories of retailers as well. Do you see something common that has taken you through all these brands?
Yeah, I think the connected or the engaged experience, I think you called it community. In the online space, we really call it engagement. I think what's really happened is there used to be a lot of sluggishness in trying to figure it out, that how will this entire phygital piece, it started with a divide, then it started with a hybrid, from cannibalization to saying, okay, we'll coexist. But I think what the last 18 months specifically, as you asked, I think, whether it's brands, whether it's even malls, they've all said, okay, let's have a bias for action and let's try and figure it out on the fly, because it was more, crisis creating opportunity due to known circumstances. So that really has brought in a lot more innovation, while I see it from the supply side or from the ecosystem of enablers. I think there's a lot more nimbleness in trying to figure out what can we do with the customer to engage. WhatsApp, etc. was probably the most intuitive things to do for a start. But in terms of long term, I think, since we're talking primarily about malls at this session, I think what, we've worked with at least a couple of mall developers, and, we've actually gone live and even beta versioning a few of it. The key challenges that, we typically face is a lot of the brands are anyway on their, per se, omnichannel journey. So their, let's say stock or their systems or their experience getting unified is a work in progress journey that they are on anyway. That probably makes it a little easier for the malls to just, move them towards that training process. However, it's a multi-layered challenge that the malls have, because, the brands let's say if there are 100 brands in a mall, just as a notional number, they're all using multiple systems, multiple order management systems, multiple on-premise softwares, ERPs, POS, systems. And the challenge that we've seen, and that's where, actually having a mall solution in Cartmax came about in the last 18 months, is they're not willing to work with each other. They're all going and saying, okay, why don't you put my software and have all the brands in the mall use their software? That's one of the key reasons why this isn't kicking off. I believe that the tech platform itself needs to do all the heavyweight lifting at the front end, and then work with all these systems so that, wherever in the journey these brands in the mall are, it makes it much easier for the mall to actually move forward and actually have their consumers connect pretty much 24/7.
So I'll come back to that in a particular perspective of malls working with brands. But Rupesh, you're in the middle of action. You're in the thick of action, right? You do have a solution that might rankle a few feathers if needed. But it's all towards customer engagement. Would you want to kind of give us an example in terms of how in the last 20 months brands have taken on your particular offering?
Yes. So if I talk about what has changed in last 20 months.
Can you hear him? Is he audible?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
If I talk about what has changed in last 20 months, it is one thing which has changed the buying behavior of the customer. How customer is finding the shop. Like, he's not going door by, or in mall or visiting each and every store to find what I'm looking for. They have gone online. Even to search or buy for offline stuff, they search online first where it is available, go straight directly to that shop and buy it. That's the way which it has changed. So brand has to put more focus on improving their social media presences or discoverability when in online searches. It is the area that where we help. And also customer brand has to keep more engaged with their customers, keep tracking how their experience in the store is happening. Like if one of our QSR brand, they are using our services for tracking their experience in the customers, and they are getting a lot of good kind of feedback, which was otherwise impossible to collect about their product quality, their service quality, price points, and other things. So that's where this is the area where they need to stick with.
So, Rupesh, I mentioned about, in terms of how a particular brand can be, enabled to understand what the customers are doing.
Yes.
You have multitude of brands, and they are not the best of friends. Let's face it.
Sure.
Right? They'll probably grow at each other's throats if needed, because they could exist in the same categories. How do you play the good grandfather out there and kind of maintain peace? And because end of the day, one or two brands understanding what their customers do augurs well for that brand. But how do you make sure that every brand in your mall will follow the same principle and you get a net positive benefit out of it?
Something that Joshua just said is a very prevalent issue right now with the most of the mall industry, where we got 150, 160 retailers at one center, and to get them all on the omni-channel or to get them all talking to each other is becoming a big problem. As Joshua said, that the brands typically say that I'm using this system, why don't you adopt this? As a mall, what we've sort of understood as a people management or a mall management firm, what we've understood is the fact that there has to be a solution to this, and it has to be done by the developer. So what we get going is steps by step in terms of we don't want all the 160 brands to come on the omni-channel. We're going to have influencers who play a larger role nowadays as the brand ambassadors or evangelists, whatever we call them. We're going to be roping them, and we will have them curate the collection for the mall, right? So the influencer takes the ownership, takes the onus, she curates the collection, and then she basically sort of sells or she advocates that. So we're taking it piece by piece because there cannot be a one way or a whole solution where we have the entire mall on omni-channel. That looks doubtful. F&B, we were able to crack it right back in the first lockdown itself because it was easy. We had a SaaS partner. We sort of jumped into it. We were able to deliver food. We had the F&B was up and running and can be still done, right? It's not that the hard part, the hardest part and the most intricate part is the inventory, the SKUs and all of that. And those change from store to store. And whether that's going to be the last mile for the customer or whether it's going to be the first mile, that is something that we are trying to.
Okay. No, let's take a poll. How many of you out here believe that the mall is a very exciting place to visit? Okay. Happy seeing that?
Yeah, happy.
Wonderful. Why is it exciting? Can any one of you shout it out? Why do you think it's exciting? All at one place, entertainment, F&B, all at one place? So do you believe that the mall that you visit has a personality of its own? Hand on heart, how many of you believe that the malls that you visit have a personality of its own? Which mall are you referring to, sir? No, I won't come to you. Are you the same? Okay, then I'll skip this table.
Skip the table completely.
Yeah. Because I know it's not going to be the right one. But I'll come back to you because the reason if they've raised their hands, I know for sure that they're doing something right there. Yes, sir. So Surat, it is VR Mall, and in Gurgaon, it is the Ambience Mall. What's the character of the VR Mall in Surat? But that's because of Inox. No, but what is that? If in one single sentence, if you had to describe the philosophy or the DNA of VR Mall, what would it be? Every mall. That's every mall. Sorry, I'm being a little pushy out here, but the idea is to figure out as to what's that single philosophy. Anyone else? Yes. I know this is a little weird. You won't find it in a typical panel discussion, but yeah.
Sure. It's part of one of our MAB portfolio only. In Bangalore, we have Galleria Mall.
That's
my
okay. Organization.
I think it's more of actually giving the right answer in the category what you have asked the question. So it's more about a community center where actually people can connect to. It's more for the special interest groups. So, how this comes is more coming from the kind of events, the kind of excitement actually we are building on the ground. Vegas is also with us. I'm actually from PPZ. So Vegas is also with us. So Vegas also we are doing this similar kind of events where, we are developing the same kind of personality for the center.
Sure. No, I appreciate that. You're Gaurav. You're from PPZ, right? So my initial question was, do you go to a mall wherein you believe that the mall has a specific DNA? Trust me, probably the answer is not up here. It won't come away rightly. But then the point is, if you dig into it and then you figure out why do you go to an R-City mall for people in Mumbai, why do you go to an R-City mall instead of a Phoenix or vice versa? probably you will get an answer in terms of what that is all about. But the reason why, Prasad, I tried reaching out to the audience is because when we were speaking, you talked about how you are trying to build communities, how you're trying to build a certain set of engagement. Right now, community, Prasad, if you recollect very early on in the conversation, said the whole word community has become a bad word, right? And probably because it's been badgered and rogered throughout its whole life cycle. But the whole issue is we've moved on to what is called as a catchment, right? A catchment was a very impersonal entity which was used to define the critical success parameters of a mall, right? And I'm saying that as an outsider who looked at it from outside. But if you heard the Albertsons CEO, who is an Indian, he is specifically focused on the whole concept of community and how probably Albertsons' strategy over the next 2-3 years is going to focus on community. Right? Now, coming to that, how do you walk the talk, Prasad? How do you make sure that you are focusing on community? What's in it for me? What's in it for Josh? What's in it for Rupesh? If you were to come with families to your malls, what can we expect from you?
Good question actually. And you didn't get the answers, what you were looking out for?
No, I didn't get.
Okay. So, the way we're treating communities and the catchment is something which has become a passe that still remains more or less the key factor to see what pin codes, what sectors people are coming in from. What's happening with the community, we've divided this into 3 chapters. I'm not going to elaborate a lot on this, but one community in the one chapter is the interest group community, right? Where we have identified based on the catchment, based on the positioning of the center, which all interest group communities we can target. For example, sports, art, literature, book reading, and these vary and change from centers to centers and assets to assets that we manage. Like for example, Vegas, Dwarka, right? We had a clear insight that we need to have, because when the mall just started, we saw a lot of people coming down to all our cafes, sitting on their laptops and working from there, which means the work from home had to become work from Vegas.
No,
right?
but all said and done, but does this reflect in your annual marketing plan? Because if it doesn't, then it's just...
It certainly does, and this is what I was saying. Now, our 50% of the composition of the AMP for any center, rather, as far as I know, would be business objectives, the brand objectives, and it sort of ends there. So my top line, my ROI, the mall is not doing good numbers, the marketing is not doing the right thing, right? Events are not happening. And I was just telling you back though that the word event is something that we're trying to remove it from our system completely. Because these are not events, these are activities you're trying to do for a certain community. There's a reason behind it. It's non-shopping. The most important part that sort of we need to really imbibe in everybody is that community development is not to do with shopping. Do not please get perplexed with these 2 things. It is actually meant for non-shopping. I want you to come with your wife in the morning for your yoga. I want you to feel this is your second place. And the more and more you come in for no reason beyond shopping, I know I have you within my reams of customer.
But that's nice to have. But do you get that information?
I'm sorry?
Do you get that information?
Of course we do. So what we're doing is, by the interest group communities that we do, understand this, the experience nowadays, people use the word experience quite, just as community, it's been abused a lot. Experience is not narrowed down to one single event or product or a destination. Experience is a journey, and the before and the after is very important. We tap into the database, we get the sports event, whatever that we're doing in, and we try and engage with that community differently. We stay relevant to them on regular basis. So yes, that's how we tap in. We do regular events with those guys.
But Josh, do you have do we as, or do you as a part of the technology group have the relevant solutions to deliver the dreams that, he's talking about? Because it's all very nice. I mean, it's all about, building engagement, building communities, but are we ready from a technology perspective?
I think yes. So, again, 2 abused words, which is experience and marketing. I think, see the mall does have a form factor, as you were talking about it. You didn't come to me for, what's the question or what's the thought, but I feel the mall is a great de-stressor, where, you go not necessarily for something and then you end up doing something useful enough. or
Commercial enough.
Yeah, commercial enough, get a little lighter that way. But the way we look at it from a technology angle is, there is a lot of data, there's a lot of location-based information available within ad tools and within tech and tracking that makes that relationship with the mall next door. Every consumer within the vicinity has a relationship with the mall nearby. I mean, if they like the mall or it's just a little further away, that's it. But they do have a relationship. What I'd like to always say is that we're not trying to get that footfall or that consumer walking to the mall to start buying online. We're actually wanting to market them to actually come to the mall. So it really doesn't take away from that relationship. It only bolsters that relationship. I also feel that, the malls are uniquely placed because and one of the large mall owners was telling us they want to give a feeling that says my mall will deliver this to me when I need it, because they have that benefit of being just there. So that trust factor is already there. So that entire consumer experience part that in the online world a Amazon or a Myntra set the benchmark, I think in the offline world the malls can do it much better than the brand itself who are there within the malls. Because whether it's from a returns perspective or any kind of relationship, I do believe there is a lot of cost as well as experience benefit that the consumer can get.
Sure.
Also, Siju, just to add to what Joshua said, and the question that you asked him, whether there is a technology that can sort of. So right now, just to answer that one, we have tech in pieces. I was saying we have a SaaS model for this, we have a SaaS model for that, we have a third operator doing this. And we are still learning and we're evolving and we're seeing what is important for us. For example, the gated community bit, which we spoke about with the MyGate and the Park Plus, right? At least what I'm able to do is I'm able to ride on that tech platform which is there,
right,
and able to understand what customers are coming to me and what are not, which are the sectors and which other areas I'm missing and what I could possibly do with them. The idea is, again, not really shopping, but mapping the data and then matching the data points. Right now, the ADSR works differently, the loyalty works differently, and a few more solutions work differently. But I think in the course of time, we should have all of that amalgamated into one system, and that's GreenHonchos should be doing that.
Sure.
I have for this thing, so I wanted to say this from a long time. As said, as Joshua says, that in the mall there are hundreds of different brands. They are using 100 different billing systems and all, and there is a lack of technology that is not, one technology that can integrate with all. Just we have developed that technology. We can integrate with hundreds of different POS and provide them exactly the same services. And you say that different modules for different services and all, we are integrating each and every customer engagement solution and services at one place. Yeah, so technology is available and it's going in the right direction in malls across all brands, across different brands. We can provide the same experience. We can collect all data at one place and really track the customer's journey inside mall.
Great. While we had a schedule 40 minutes, we started off with being given only 25 minutes, and I got a physical and a digital reminder. It's a phygital reminder saying that the time's up. So I had obviously lots of questions to shoot to these gentlemen out here. I would take one more minute, and this is a question that I always wanted to ask someone like you. Is the consumer in the north different from the consumer in the south, different from the consumer in the west and from the east?
There is a fair amount of homogeneous attributes to a customer. Like we would expect to a Delhi customer or a Bangalore customer to look into sanitization, hygiene, these standards as done, right, as normal. But yes, the behavior and the thing changes quite a bit from city to city. In Bangalore, we realized that the catchment, we are not able to recover with our numbers. And when we sort of did a bit of digging, we understood that those segment of people who used to be coming in from those areas are migrated now. They've gone somewhere else to sort of this thing, right? So we had to tap into new markets. Delhi, I think, was the fastest, and I should say this, the fastest growing market because in terms of the footfalls, in terms of the recoveries, in terms of the numbers, we didn't have to really struggle and do much. But yes, the consumer, the segment changes quite drastically from region to region. Yes.
Great. So I think we've got time for just about this much of a discussion, but I think times are good. Yesterday's report indicated that the consumer durables and IT industry has seen a fairly large uptick in terms of the numbers, while the volumes have remained almost have plateaued, but the numbers have gone up by about 24-25%. So I think good times ahead of us, unless and until Mr. Omicron kind of bowls a googly and we kind of fall target to it. So hoping that things go very well for all of you gentlemen, Prasad, Rupesh and Josh. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And for sharing your thoughts. All the very best to you as well. And please stay safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much to our panel, Mr. Siju Narayan, Mr. Prasad Rane, Mr. Rupesh Moore, and Mr. Naveen Joshua.